Welcome to Hood Champion Boxing and Sports. In boxing, you find a way to win or you find a way to lose. Split-second confusion could be the downfall for Canelo when he faces off against Terence Crawford. Now, there's a lot of conversations going on right now about, I don't really have much to say about this shit, but who could possibly be cheating and on Victor Conte and Crawford and Canelo and Reynoso? Look, man, both of those guys are clean athletes. I said it once before, I'm going to say it again. But for me, no topic is off limits because it was just a conversation. Nothing wrong to talk about things, but I think some people are taking this shit to the fucking stupid. You know what I'm saying? As far as I'm concerned, we got clean athletes. These motherfuckers who are running around here, you got to excuse me, right? I'm not, this ain't Hood Champion. This is me talking, right? This ain't the podcast cat. This is me. This is how I would be talking in a motherfucker's face right now. Like, these motherfuckers acting like they really have good intentions towards somebody. Man, get the fuck out of here. Cornball ass motherfuckers. They don't have good intentions towards nobody. Bozos just out here, man, just talking out their asses, man. You want to have a conversation about something, there's a way to frame it. But to just come out here and just 100% shit on somebody unwarrantedly, man, is fucked up. But, anyway, let me get back to doing what I do. Terence Crawford and Canelo. All kind of talks. Who's going to win the fight? Well, let me just tell you this. This Southpaw versus orthodox confrontation, some people think the Southpaw has the advantage. Some people think the orthodox fighter has the advantage. Well, I'm just going to tell you, man, most fighters train against orthodox opponents. So, Southpaws bring punches from, unexpected directions. Now, Canelo's been at this fight game for a while, but, we've seen him fight some Southpaws, you know what I mean? Kirkland, Billy Joe Saunders. And we've seen how those fights have gone. Canelo, may get a little flustered at times, and those guys may have had a moment. Kirkland, early in the fight, the first round, but, Canelo quickly figured shit out and got his ass out of there with the right hand and combinations. And then you saw with Billy Joe Saunders. Was able to have a couple of moments, but, Canelo with his timing, and I just think that uppercut he threw, I think that wasn't even timing. That was anticipation and just the boxing guys looking over Canelo, the way that uppercut landed and broke Billy Joe Saunders over the bone. But when you have somebody in there who's as intelligent as a guy like Terence Crawford, those punches are going to be coming at Canelo from unexpected directions. I know Canelo's doing everything, he and his team, to be smart in training camp and bring in brilliant Southpaw fighters and also some orthodox guys to make sure when Canelo gets in there's nothing Crawford can do that's going to be too much of a surprise and that he's going to be prepared for it. But those unfamiliar angles now I got a whole lot I'm going to talk about, right? Probably a 30-minute video, so I'm just going to wait to get to that. But there's something Crawford's been doing, and I think he took this from Manny Pacquiao. You see that left cross and then the right hook that comes right behind it? The reason Crawford's so successful with that combination is because orthodox fighters rarely defend against making against that combination, making them harder to read and for them to counter. That's why Crawford has so much success at it. You know who else likes to throw a swivel jab, essentially? Caleb Plant, but not from the Southpaw stance. He does it from the orthodox stance. And the reason why he's so effective with that shot is because he's left-handed. So he'll throw that right hand, then he'll come back with the left as a jab, but sometimes he'll throw the right but come back with the left as a hook because that's his power punch. But all of that ain't going to matter if Terence Crawford or Canelo, if they can't establish foot control. I always talk about the foot fight in boxing. You hear a lot of guys who cover boxing talk about it. And me, when I trained as a southpaw, man. I'm right-handed naturally. I just was never comfortable fighting out of an orthodox stance. I was always comfortable in a southpaw stance. I was watching Canelo when he fights. Sometimes Canelo, he has his way in fight. I think, you know what I mean? I think Canelo wins a lot of his fights before he even gets in the ring. Because when I watch him, I don't really gather that Canelo is thinking about winning the foot fight. This is just my opinion. It seems Canelo is more just about knowing what he does best and trying to execute the game plan in the ring, not necessarily winning the foot fight and trying to line up a specific shot. I think Canelo knows that certain shots he throws, no matter if he's winning the foot fight or not, if he can just get those shots to the points on the opponent's body, whether it's the head, whether it's the midsection, arms, hip, it doesn't matter. Canelo knows he can do damage. But in this fight, I think Crawford is going to be very cognizant of where his feet are placed and to ensure that he's lining up the big left hand and then coming behind with the right hook, the same way he was able to do that against Majumov and in other fights. And I think that's going to be one of his go-to punches or punch selection when he faces off against Canelo. You see, that positioning opens up for clean lanes. And that's what we got to be paying attention to, because we saw when Canelo and, most of his fights, clean lanes will present themselves, but sometimes his opponents, they don't take advantage. And for me, Crawford is going to take advantage, and he should, with hard power shots. Well, I put it this way, hard, fast power shots. And he's going to close off Canelo, who's the orthodox fighter. He's going to close off his offense momentarily, and then Crawford is going to move and get the hell out of danger. And I can't wait for this fight to happen, man. You know what I'm saying? When have you ever seen Canelo against a good mover? Now, we're talking about good movers, of course, the guys who he struggle with. But, it's so hard. But, Mayweather, Lara, you got goddamn Bivol. But you look at Caleb Plant, you look at that guy he fought, was it Ryder? When he fought Ryder. But when it comes to determining who controls the center line, I don't know if Canelo is establishing the kind of dominance where he's going to be the determining factor on who's controlling the center line. I think his opponents just afford him the opportunity to just move around the ring and be the lion in that jungle across the 12 rounds, because they've already seen, some of them seem already defeated before they get in there. Look, you can't fight scared. Terence Crawford's not going to fight scared. You're telling me that when it comes to controlling the center line, that Canelo should control the center line and outbox a guy like a Jermell Charlo? Undisputed at 154, boxer, puncher, KO power. But what happened is, these guys get scared, and then all of a sudden, Canelo, again, he starts to roam the jungle. He's the lion. These guys are pussycats, asserts his dominance, and the fight goes Canelo's way. But I don't believe Crawford is going to allow that. There may be some momentum shifts. He may allow Canelo to control the center line when he's resetting. But once Crawford gets back to his offense and to letting his hands go, I think Crawford you're going to find controlling that center line. But the bottom line is, in this fight, I think the person who controls or wins the subtle foot war, fancy feet, I like to call it, I think they're going to win the center line. They're going to control the fight. There's natural, I'm envisioning Crawford as a southpaw, because I know he's going to probably go orthodox at some point. And I'm just watching Canelo, and I'm trying to envision Crawford align that left hand, that straight left, boom, with Canelo's exposed side. the counterpunching could be very smooth. It could be punishing if Crawford can line it up and get that shot off. Especially if he slips Canelo's jab and then bing. Or he baits Canelo's right hand, then bing. But what if, for some reason, Canelo gets that shit through, that right hand, and Crawford's there? Because they're both susceptible to those shots, you know what I'm saying? But it all comes back to the foot fight. But it really depends on what a guy like Canelo's doing in training. I just think, in my opinion, it's probably easier to find somebody who can fight like Canelo and more difficult to find somebody who can fight like Crawford. With Canelo, you know, and look, I'm not just going to stereotype and say, you just go find a Mexican fighter or a pressure fighter. Nah, that's not it. But they got guys out there who can emulate Canelo. And you know who's someone, like, I didn't read this, but I would suspect that Crawford and his team are probably brought Madrimov in to help prepare him for Canelo. And the reason I say that is because Bivol brought Madrimov in to emulate Canelo's rhythm of fighting. And you saw how Bivol performed. And I wouldn't be surprised if Crawford brought Madrimov in and just asked Madrimov the same thing. Hey, you know, we need you to do the same thing like what you did for Bivol, so I can go in there and have the best chance of success against Canelo. But orthodox fighters rarely face southpaws, you know what I'm saying? But southpaws constantly train against the orthodox fighters. Now, the asymmetry means southpaws often feel, I think, more comfortable against orthodox fighters in those matchups. So this is where a southpaw like Crawford may go into fight. And who knows, he may just stay southpaw the whole fight. Because I'll tell you what, for a guy who's naturally right-handed, Crawford sure as hell fights most of his fights southpaw. You know what I'm saying? And even when he goes orthodox, he just doesn't seem to be as effective, which I think is crazy because Crawford started boxing orthodox. I think he said he broke his hand, and then he started training southpaw, and he became so good at it, he became better as a southpaw with his left hand and with his right hand that he just decided he was more comfortable there. So that just shows you the power of Crawford mentally to be able to develop his left side to the point to where it had advanced beyond the right side. That's crazy. But this is where we talk about the mental strength and where I just think it could lead into some kind of psychological disruption in the ring. You know, guys who are used to fighting orthodox fighters are used to a certain rhythm. Bing, bing, bing. You know what I'm saying? Bing, bing. But when you switch it, the rhythm is reversed. You're used to shots coming from a certain direction. Then they switch the stance on you. Now that shit's coming from an opposite direction. And I think when that happens, and I think in this fight, Crawford is going to be able to throw off Canelo's timing. And this is where the split-second confusion could come into play. Because Canelo may start to second guess. And that's the last thing he needs to do is hesitate and second guess. And that's that split-second confusion. To me, when you're in a fight with anyone, especially something of this magnitude, that split second, that moment of hesitation can be the difference of landing a big shot or getting clipped. And that's what makes this fight so interesting. Everyone talks about, power and chin. But to me, the real killer in this fight with Crawford and Canelo is hesitation. Who's going to hesitate? Who's going to nut up? Who's going to overthink? See, Crawford doesn't just fight. He's rearranging reality round after round after round. And you see in the middle rounds where Crawford is making adjustment after adjustment. You haven't really seen Canelo make many adjustments in fights. he's figured it out to where he can just keep the fight pretty simple with the way he approaches it. And I've talked about this before. High guard, pressure, certain shots he lets go, a little head movement, that's it. Crawford, no matter what you do, you always find that he figures out a way, even if you get in front of him, to get back in front of you. So Crawford is great at making the adjustments. But the reputation that Crawford has for being a data collector in early rounds, that's something that I think is going to show up big time when he and Canelo face off. Just being fair, even if you're a Canelo fan, when has Canelo had a reputation for downloading data? And I watch Canelo's fights too. He's an amazing fighter. Like, he's the face of boxing for a reason, right? But I don't know if he's, I guess maybe he's downloading data the same way Crawford does. But he's watching the way a fighter responds to him. He's making a read off the body. If he hits him with something hard and he hurts him, then he's downloading and processing that, and he sees an opportunity to go in for the kill. But we know with Crawford, he just has a reputation, man, for being a data collector, just because of the way he moves and how he upshifts round after round after round. And then with Canelo's rhythm, his rhythm is based more like relying a lot on timing. That's why Canelo goes a little bit slower, trying to time you. He throws less punches, but he's looking to throw something big and try to time you. But I'm just not so sure how well that's going to work against Crawford, because I think Canelo got to step to him early. The first 6 rounds, I can see Canelo getting behind unless he knocks Crawford out. But that southpaw stance definitely could be a disruptor to Canelo's offense. Those 10-ounce gloves. I'm trying to say, how can a guy like Canelo deal with Crawford's southpaw style, the reach advantage? It's one thing to point out, Crawford's arms are longer than Bivol's. That's crazy, right? And he's training, I'm going to talk about this, using those SNAC products. Crawford may really get in this ring and just really outbox and touch up Canelo, and Canelo won't be able to catch up to him. Even if Crawford is switching stances, flipping between orthodox and southpaw, I just don't know if Canelo's going to be able to time him. Because you look at Crawford's going to be changing up the tempos. Slow pace, then burst explosively, you know what I'm saying? Then when Canelo feels the pace slows, Crawford's making more like short-circuiting defensive reads. He's like, okay, I'm slowing up a little bit to bait Canelo into opening up his shots. Then Crawford's making his defensive reads and looking to counter. Now, this shit is a high IQ, big time chess that's taking place in the ring. But I could see Canelo resulting more to some feints, even foot feints, head feints, shoulder feints, misdirection. Crawford doing the same thing. But it's just a matter of who can get the other guy to take the bait and to react. That subtle movement by Crawford to pull counters could freeze Canelo's reactive engine. We're going to see whose pride shows up in the ring. You get some fighters who don't want to flinch, don't want to react. But I just think if for some reason Canelo just feels Crawford's fainting a lot, and Canelo all of a sudden, his reactive engine, he decides, to just freeze it and not react to everything Crawford's doing, that's when Crawford could land something big. Because again, for a split second, Canelo's overthinking and not reacting, and Crawford can capitalize. Anyway, there's a lot of strategic consequence. What happens when Canelo is a half step behind in combinations? You know what I'm saying? What happens when he's a half step behind in combinations? He's going to have to figure that out, because if he's losing the exchanges, because Crawford is getting off first and finishing last, that is going to really take something out of Canelo Alvarez. Okay, yeah, my son just came home. All right, he said something funny just now. Anyway, we'll see how the fight goes, but I definitely feel with the strategic consequences, man, where Crawford going to be exploiting openings, but not with volume. I think there'll be times where he will open up, then he'll scale back, and you'll see his the volume of punches round after round. I think you may see that fluctuate, but I think Crawford may have a consistent maybe 35 to 45 punches a round. Some rounds may be lower, 35. Others may be a little bit higher, maybe 50, 55. But on average, I think Crawford will stay right between like 30, 35, 45 punches a round. Because even though I don't expect him to come out round after round and throw like William Zepeda, he's going to have to let his hands go. Because one thing you can't do is not throw against Canelo. That's the one thing that Bivol showed us. You let your hands go, Canelo will freeze his reactive engine. And that's what Crawford's going to have to do. Anyway, man, the legacy, the collapse, when it comes to Canelo, strength lies in control. I'm not sure he's going to be able to control Crawford, but the confusion is going to be Canelo's enemy. Much as he tries to control Crawford with the excellent things that Crawford does and the things we mentioned, just getting Canelo to hesitate, to not react when he should, to get a bit confused or a bit frustrated, it's going to be all bad for a guy like Canelo. Now, when Crawford initiates the rhythm, Canelo can't match, it's all over, man. That shit won't be a war. That shit's going to be erosion. Because I'm telling you, Canelo is just going to start swallowing water inside that ring. And I get it. Crawford's a smaller guy. You know, I have fun with the videos. I argue both points. But the reality is, if Crawford initiates a rhythm that Canelo can't match, listen to what I'm saying, that shit will not be a war between these two. It will be erosion, because Canelo will get rinsed right up out that ring. And Crawford would have shocked the boxing world. Anyway, Crawford dominating early, I don't know, but I think he'll win early rounds. I could see the crowd being stunned as Canelo, trying to pull the trigger. He may even hurt Crawford. But I think with Crawford's conditioning and his IQ and being a thinker, maybe he clinches Canelo, takes a knee, but then Crawford gets back up and continues to fight and finish strong, and down the stretch wins those championship rounds. Who knows? Crawford may come back and stop. Canelo may drop Canelo. But if anyone gets dropped, I would, and I had to put my money on it, I would probably think Canelo drops Crawford. But that's if he could catch up to him. You know what I'm saying? I just could see it not happening because, again, Canelo getting his ass confused. But one thing I want to say, this SNAC thing again, right? I understand people's eyebrows being raised because of Victor Conte and because of his past. A lot of fans are skeptical about him, even though SNAC operates within legal and regulated boundaries. But I'll tell you, there's no red flags as far as Terence Crawford so far. You know what I mean? He's never failed a drug test. He undergoes stringent, VADA testing leading up to his fights, which includes random screenings. So I don't know what else you want Crawford to do. You know what I'm saying? Canelo's taking the VADA testing as well. It's good conversations. I like the conversation, but some of these guys just out here, man, taking it to the stupid with some of the stuff they're talking about. I think that's wrong. But SNAC's current reputation is built on legal supplementation and advanced training, not banned substances. So expect Crawford to come in there, man, probably looking, just as good as he's done at 154. Hell, maybe as good at 147, because the little bit of research I've done on this SNAC shit, Now I'm gonna refer to my notes to kind of read over this because I don't know it. Like I know just talking about boxing, I don't know the SNAC shit like that. Let me find it. Okay, right here. This thing that SNAC has Crawford doing: altitude, mass, and hypoxic training. Now, what this is supposed to do is simulate high altitude conditions, forcing the body to adapt to lower oxygen levels. So the result is increased red blood cell production, which boosts endurance and stamina. That's what Crawford's going to need. Athletes also report enhanced explosive power due to the body working harder under oxygen stress. So Crawford's going to have better stamina, and he's going to be more explosive. That shit is crazy, right? And it says here, SNAC may use oxygen-reducing masks or hypobaric tents to replicate these effects without needing to train at elevation. So Crawford can just go to the SNAC facility and get all of this. Now, when it comes to recovery, which is going to be very important for Crawford to get a second, third win, when facing Canelo, if Canelo's putting on so much pressure to where Crawford has to move from the first second of the first round to the last second of the last round. The hypoxic recovery, this is recovering in low oxygen environments. It can improve oxygen efficiency and muscle repair. SNAC's approach likely includes interval hypoxic training where athletes alternate between high-intensity bursts and recovery in simulated altitude conditions. The method helps to build resilience under fatigue, crucial for late-round performance, whereas Crawford is going to have to be on point and be ready to win those rounds. One last thing that I want to leave you with that got my attention: SNAC emphasizes fast twitch muscle activation, which is key for knockout power. Let me tell you, these methods may be that secret sauce for Terrence Crawford to retain speed, power at 168 and not only beat Canelo, maybe mess around and knock him out. Anyway, y'all keep cool. Shout out to the veterans, all 7 continents. Crawford and Canelo, shit's gonna boil down to me, the split-second confusion. And that could be Canelo's downfall. But we won't know until we see, because this fight can really go either way. And as far as that first 2 minutes of ranting, hey, I'm human, right?